Hello there, everybody. This is the Salon Doctor, and I am so happy to have the chance to talk to you guys. The subject today is recruiting and hiring rock stars. I did this seminar down at the Nashville Expo, and I tried to recreate it here to send out to you on YouTube or in the forums or whatever. And because I'm such a technical wizard, I messed it up a couple times. So I'm going to try it again and see if this works. So, but anyway, this is similar to what I talked to down there, and this is again, it's how to recruit and how to hire rock stars. So that's the picture of when we were down there. So, all right. So here's the thing. Today, December 11th, 2024, some 250,000. It's probably more than that. Tans are happening. Just when we get into peak season, that'd be a small number, but the industry will lose $1 million on those tans because of the baneful existence of the 30-second syndrome. And we all know what the 30-second syndrome is, at least I think most of you do because I've been preaching on it for years, is that 30 seconds somebody comes in, what's your last name? Okay, you're in bed number five, last time for 4 minutes. That still work for you? Good, bang, in there. Nobody took a look at the software, the history of the tanner to see what level they're tanning at, to see if they're getting as dark as they want to get, getting them to step up and sell them up to a higher um, tanning level that's, very small additional cost. No one's trying to sell them a lotion, whatever. So the 30-second syndrome is something that really hurts our business. It really is the ogre. It really is. It's something that we're trying to avoid all the time if we can. So let's get into this. Let's talk about um, uh, the common recruiting mistakes that people make. So one of them is, of course, as you see there in the middle of the screen, under training specifically in selling. We we hire people probably too fast, and we're all busy, whatever, and you give people training on how to take care of a transaction on your software. But I know that when most new people start at a tanning salon, they get very, very little training on how to sell. We'll get into that in a minute here. Okay, so let's get some rock stars, okay? And some of the common mistakes that we make that prevent us from getting those rock stars is we hire too fast. We hire under pressure. We've got 5 employees. Well, everything's wonderful. This is great. We don't need anybody else. So, and then bang, somebody leaves, and you have to hire under pressure. And in a minute, I'm going to talk to you about TQM, which is time, quality, money, and that really lends into this under pressure thing. Okay, so we also replacing underperformers too slowly. We we sometimes I think we adopt the moral attitude that we are our brother's keeper, and we're not. Um, we have to be responsible to the community and to our employees and to our business. We've got to have people that are working at what we want them to do, and that is to sell packages. 2025 is right around the corner, guys. It is going to be a ginormous year. This is going to be one of the biggest years we've had in a long time. But we got to have people behind the counter that know what they're doing. If we try to work with them and they're underperforming, they continue to underperform, we have to face the fact that not everyone is geared for the tanning business. Not everybody is. And that doesn't mean they're bad people, they're just not geared for it. So, anyway, common recruiting mistakes. So, not getting newer employees productive ASAP. Somebody starts with you, the first day they're starting with you on the job, they're nervous. They want to make sure that they're doing something that their employer will be happy with. The worst thing is you get a new employee that feels they haven't done anything for the day, and they go home at night and think, oh, I don't know if I like this job. I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. And you want to get them productive. You want to work with them either on showing how to make a sale, or it's maybe even display work in the store. It's some cleaning, deep cleaning, whatever. just anything, and then compliment them that they're making progress on what they're doing. That makes them feel like they're being productive, that they're doing something that is collaborative with um, with the salon. Also, little or no reinforcements of current stars. Again, we're on mistakes here for recruiting. This is when what we do is that we have stars out there and we're not reinforcing them. And people that are stars, your rock stars, they have egos. I consider myself a rock star. If you look at the wall behind me, I work with rock stars for 25 years, but I always felt I was one. But it's just like anybody else, I need some reinforcement. It's one of the oddest things about working with celebrities, not odd, but just eye opening, is that they're so famous and they're so successful, you wouldn't think that they would need reinforcement, but all the time you're backstage with any of the actors or actresses or with the big singing stars, and you say, "Boy, that show was just a wonderful show. I really liked your drum solo." They eat that up because by their very nature, they're insecure and they want to know what they're doing is really good. So that's what we have to do with our stars. Also, under mistakes, shop stopping the recruiting when you're fully staffed. As God made green apples, you have 5 people. That's all you need. If that's all you need, some salons are going to need 8 or 9 because of the volume. But if you only need 5, and you think you've got your 5, and you think you're set, that's when trouble starts brewing over the horizon. One person leaves, maybe another person leaves. Somebody's going back to school. Someone is moving away or whatever. My adage is I never stop recruiting. Never stop recruiting. Because you don't know. Even you say, well, John, I've got a full staff. I can't be hiring a bunch of extra people. But what happens? What happens if that rock star, that Cameron, walks in the door? Cameron is a lady that I hired down at uh, Ghostbusters Tanning down in Southeast Kentucky. The manager that had been there before was not good, not good. And Art and Alicia and I found Cameron, and Cameron's made all the difference in the world. And she's the subject of an interview we did on her that's going to be on my website. This is going to be a series called the Rockstar series. It's going to be rock stars for associates, managers, uh, up to general managers, and actually up to owners too. So, uh, it, it's you never want to assume that the next rock star is not going to walk through the door because they may. And if one walks through the door, then you're going to start thinking, well, maybe we'll see how this person does, and they continue to do well, and this other person that they may replace is not doing so well. You're always trying to bring the bottom closer to the top. So now, lastly, before you recruit, remember the law of TQM. Now, if you don't know what I mean by TQM, there is a QR code on this presentation later on. You can go with that QR code. You can go on my website. There's I've got more content on there on this business, marketing, selling, HR, the choke a Clydesdale. I mean, there's all kinds of goodies on here. But you can go on there and you'll see the webinar for TQM. TQM is time, quality, and money. And really what it is, people, if you want good quality people, if you want really good, if you want rock stars, you've got to have time and you got to have some money. If you think that you're going to hire a rock star at $9 an hour, you're kidding yourself. If you think you're going to hire a rock star at $9 an hour and you can hire them next week, you're kidding yourself. To come up with a great staff, I mean, think of the time that you put in to organize your equipment, what equipment you're going to buy for the season that you're going to put in there, and that's very important. But you have to put that much consideration into the staff, the team that you're going to put on the field, if you will. So you got to back off. Now here we are. It's December the 11th, I guess it is, whatever. We are getting closer and closer to the curtain going up on peak 2025. So December, usually November and December are the months that I really push people. Take a look at your staff, do an evaluation on them, look at their figures, look at their sales figures in terms of average lotion per tan, their EFT close rate, everything that they're doing. If you've got somebody, if you've got a couple of B's and a couple of A's and you've got a C, you got to say to yourself, why am I keeping the C around? And it's hard. I know it's hard to get rid of people sometimes, but not everybody is cut out to be selling in the tanning industry. That's just not. That's doesn't mean they're bad people. They may be truly happy in another job. Okay, but go to that TQM because that might open your eyes about what's important. Give yourself enough time. Make sure that you have enough of the M, the money, because keep in mind for all the things we talk about, people, for everything that we talk about, we still have to answer the question for the rock star. What's in it for moi? What's in it for me? So they've got to see that they can make some really good money on EFT bonuses. And when I see people trying to pay $5 for an EFT bonus, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard for me. If on an EFT, the life of that EFT with that particular tanner, if you're taking in $300, $400, $500, believe me, you can afford to pay them 25. And if you want to get some of these younger people, if you want to get them crazed, give them some big incentives. It's found money for you. Because if that EFT doesn't sell and they keep standing behind the counter just doing their homework or whatever, because they're not fueled up to being selling, you're losing money. And that's that 30-second syndrome. You're getting your butt kicked because they don't care. You want them to care. For a lot of different things you have to do as management to get them to care. But one thing is you got to get them well paid. And for every EFT that they sell, that's found money. You pay them on the original EFT, and you're not paying them on the EFTs as they draw after that. Now, some people do. Some people do pay a small pittance on every EFT that draws afterward. I'm not for that at all. I don't think that's a good plan. Some will say, well, we'll pay them $5 when they sell the EFT, and every time that EFT member draws again, we'll give them another dollar. Guys, it doesn't work because people want a carrot, but they don't want the carrot a block away. They want the carrot close to them. So they can see that, all right, I did this, I sold this, this, and this. For this month, I'm going to get paid this. Not what am I going to get paid a dollar on other EFTs going forward. It sounds like it makes sense because you'd think that it pushes the employee to not want people to go on freeze or to cancel their EFTs. But it really doesn't do it. I mean, it sounds like it would, but it doesn't. Okay, so again, I want to go back to the law TQM. When you see the QR code on here, go to my website. There's so much stuff on there to help you. Plus, sign up for a consultation. If you're having a problem and you want to rework or rebuild your salon, whether it's for analyzing your numbers and how to get your numbers up and to get from me a projection of what your numbers should be, because I do this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. If you want your marketing set, if you want HR, how to staff, I'm the guy. Anyway, go on to that with that QR code and go on to the uh, website. Okay, so let's talk about something else here. Um, okay. Um, okay, yeah. So here's the point that I want to make that is, I think, very important. Remember that as a manager or an owner, you have to keep in mind that your employees are watching what you do, and you should set the example that others want to copy. So if you and the people that you hire are really industrious in doing their job, the other employees want to see that. That's great, because really, great employees don't like working with others that slack off. If you want to see a salon culture go right into the crapper where you're not selling anything, where you've got drama to choke a horse, right? Allow of your 5 employees, 2 to be trying, doing their thing, and you got 3 that are sitting on their fannies. You can't let somebody work at the front counter all the time selling and not sharing and cleaning beds. Now, when you get in the peak season, you might have a couple bed cleaners. So, but remember, you are known by the company keep. And if you want your employees to know of you as a great leader, then don't You don't want to stock them with beds that go back 20 years ago that look like the bulbs on a surfboard. You're trying to get upgraded equipment all the time you can. You're trying to make sure your lamps are changed and whatever correct acrylics are done. All this stuff that says that you're a leader that cares about the salon. It's the same thing with the staff. You're being watched. So don't keep losers around, if that's the best way to say it. Okay, let's talk now about the what I call the attributes of a good rock star. So you're going to go out shopping now, right? You're going to go shopping to buy some people, some bodies. Here's what I say you look for. Look for maturity in life and career experiences. In other words, adults. So there's a thing called the mortality table. The mortality table will tell you that at I'm almost 78, the chances are very strong that whoever's watching this is going to outlive me. Okay, understand that. I'm comfortable with God, so He'll take me when He wants. But there's also the maturity table. The maturity table, and I've been doing this now for 34 years, over 600 owners and thousands of salon employees. What we see is a pattern. I mean, you'll see every once in a while, you'll see something rare. Somebody that's 18 years old that just they're fantastic, but it's rare. It usually goes by the maturity table. By the time we get to the mid 20s, mid to late 20s, they've gone through some things. They've gone through some challenges. Maybe they've gone through some goofy times and they've settled down or whatever. It doesn't mean that they're all mature. And you'll see people that are 50 years old that are immature. But generally speaking, if you're betting at Vegas, bet on somebody that's 25 or 26 versus 18. You want adults. We got to have adults. I mean, adults are coming into your salon, investing their time and their money. This isn't a hamburger at the Wendy's drive-up. This isn't an expensive indulgence that they're investing in. So you can't have them coming in to spend that kind of money and have somebody behind the counter that doesn't care about them, that doesn't look at the software history to see where they're at and asks that inevitable question, are you getting as dark as you want? You got to get people, we have to have staff, we have rock stars that are engaged. We want adults. Okay, so those adults have got natural, engaging interpersonal skills. Natural. There are some things we can teach, and there's a lot of research on this. The Gallup organization did a research years ago, and it's in a book called First Break All the Rules. I love it. I highly recommend First Break All the Rules. But they talk about that there's skills, knowledge, and talent. Skills and knowledge we can teach people. Some people will learn them at various degrees or at various speeds. But talent is but defined as the natural reoccurring of actions and attitudes. So what that means is, for me, for example, I'm a very amiable person. I have to say that I am. I'm friendly toward anybody. The guys in my church group have said I've never met a stranger because that's basically who I am. So if you called me at 4 o'clock in the morning, I would have a tendency to apologize to you that I'm not lucid enough to take on this conversation. According to my grandchildren, I'm often not lucid enough to take on a conversation, but that's beside the point. So, natural, engaging interpersonal skills. This Cameron that I'm referring to that we did a recording on, and it's going to be on the website, from I would say the first or second minute I was talking to this young lady, I thought, if she's real, and you don't always know, I said, if she's real, this kid is a home run. She's a rock star. So, and as it works out, she was. Okay, selling ego swagger. We want somebody that's got an ego swagger. This is when you're looking at for those attributes. I want somebody that has got a good ego, that feels good about themselves, not so egotistical that they're a pain in the neck to work with, but somebody that's got a lot of confidence. That's what we mean, because it's that confidence that'll cause them to step up to somebody at the counter where they see that they're tanning at a lower level and say, you've been on that entry level bed for 2 months. I don't really know that that's doing you a lot of good. Really, I'd like to see you get more money, more satisfaction from your investment. And here's what I think you should do. You should move up to this next bed. And what beautiful way to do this. If you ever tan in this next bed up here, well, you haven't. Typically, we charge $5 for an upgrade on that, whatever. Hey, I'm not going to charge you. Just charge. Why don't you try the bed, see what you think of it? No commitment, anything like that. I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, if the rock star behind the counter suggests to the customer that's on lower tanning levels, why don't you try this upper services bed here, free of upgrade, and tell me what you think. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to love it, number one. Number two, they're probably going to want to up their membership. And that's when you come up with pricing. It's the other thing, if you come to me, I've already done, in the last 2 months, I've already done 42 new price sheets for 42 customers. If you come to me, I'm going to show you how you do a pricing sheet where when that customer is ready to or thinking about stepping up to the next level, where you show them it's just this much cheaper per tan to tan at that level you like than the one you're at. And it's a no-brainer. Okay, so work experience and retail indulgence you see there on the screen. So yes, I mean indulgence spas, fitness, beauty, massage, or high-end sit-down restaurants because you got to sell yourself there. All right, so next, responsible, reliable. We want to find out in our interviewing and the questions about all the stuff that we're talking about in these attributes. We want to find out if they have good work ethic. Forget it, not good work ethic. They have excellent work ethic. We want to find that out. And the questions I'm going to share with you later, and the questions you can get off my website, you'll be able to get those answers. All right, how about dress for success? They show up to impress. I was in corporate America for years. There was times when you'd never, I was a big executive at CBS and at Target stores. I would never have thought about going to work wearing a turtleneck sweater. It was always suit and tie. Those days are gone. But that doesn't mean that if somebody wants to impress me, they can't be walking through the door with a Daisy May little shorts, whatever you call them, or jeans that are ripped out at the knees. Their hair looks like they're a refugee. I mean, someone's going to come in looking somewhat like a pro and an adult. And if they want the job, that's what they're going to do. When somebody walks in and they look like a slob, they're just throwing this out there like, well, if I get the job, fine. If I don't, whatever. Mom and dad want me to get the job. They're all honked off at me because I can't pay my car insurance, whatever. Okay, dress for success, very important. Okay, what else are we looking at? Attribute great work ethic and passion to provide service. I I love the retail industry. I got into it when I was 14 years old. To me, it's a real satisfaction behind a cash register for years there, helping people get what they wanted and get them out fast enough or whatever, making the change right for them. We didn't have computers back then, but you want great work ethic and passion. Okay. And then roots in the community is preferable. We'd like to have somebody that's close enough to the salon. If somebody moves in from out of state, you got to be even more careful on your questions to make sure that they're going to be a solid citizen with you. But if they live close, it takes away the excuse that they can't get to work. We'd like to think that that's not going to happen. But, all right, so compatibility. You find somebody that's competent, that's great. You feel that they've got the goods, but you want somebody that's compatible. Compatible with you if you're the manager that's hiring, compatible with the owner. Because you don't want drama. You get a chance, you go on Facebook or go on the internet and um, text uh, Taryn Godman. The Godmans have got a change, a burdening change called Tropical Tan, doing extremely well. These are very, very sharp. I call them sharp kids because they're only in their 30s. To me, they're babies, right? But they're really, really smart kids, and they've done a great job. And Lauren has, Taryn rather, has created a drama-free society in her salons. If you ever want to know about competence and compatibility, have a chat with Taryn. She's smart cookie. Okay, now here's the question. Is your employment application, is it up to date? If you feel it isn't, again, when you get the QR code later on in this webinar, send that back to me. You can send it back to me. You can sign up for a free consultation, or you can send me just a letter that says, John, here's my application. What do you think of it? Before I went on and got my MBA in HR management, I had seriously thought about getting my Juris Doctor, going to be a lawyer. It's the old joke. I couldn't be a lawyer because my parents were married. Now I didn't make up that joke. That was so anyway. But I went on to get my MBA. And so if you feel that your application is not up, then, send it over to me and I'll take a look. All right, let's talk about the critical keys to successful interviewing. You need to be prepared with pre-screening and a good questions list. Now you get that good questions list, you may want to probe on it. Don't quite challenge them to start with, but just probe to get some additional information. You're going to hear me talking about probing quite a bit as we go on here. Um, and then you want to make the applicant comfortable, whether you're briefly talking at the front counter, and if they are, by the way, if they're at the front counter, don't do an interview on them. You want to do this pre-screening conversation by phone, and tell them that's the way that you handle it. You usually talk to them on the phone. Don't do it at the counter. You're doing it in front of customers and other employees. That's not good. Okay, and then take notes. When you finally do sit down in an interview, ask the applicant if it's okay if you take notes. If when you first sit down with them, you've got this pad of paper and you're starting to get them open up and you're making incredible amount of notes, they could get a little nervous. Ask them first. And this is the way I would handle it. I'd say, hey, Sherry, this is some great stuff we're talking about. I want to make sure I don't miss any of the good things that you've suggested or you've talked about. Are you okay if I make a few notes? Bang. By doing that and asking her permission, you've put her at ease, but you've put her now as a partner on the interview to make the interview go good. That's what we're trying to get. We've got two people, we have two people, both have to make a decision. So this is a 50-50 proposition. It's not a manager or an owner that's the judge, all high and mighty. We both have to make a decision. We want people to identify with us. Okay, so again, we're looking for compatibility as well as competence. I know I had to repeat that because it is important. Now you want to be ready to discuss in this pre-screening interview on the phone. You want to say something to them about the desired job performances, what you want them to do. Again, this is not a full interview. This is over the phone. You want to talk about base and incentive compensation. Really, what it comes down to is you're asking, what are you looking for your base compensation? It's important because if they say, well, I like $25 an hour, say, well, thank you. Thank you for coming in today. It was nice to meet you. And I hope you are a tanning customer of ours someday, but we just don't have the money to pay at that rate. And who knows what'll happen sometime. But anyway, but you need to know that before you have a physical interview. Once you get some of this pre-screening stuff out of the way, you won't waste your time in a full face-to-face interview. And you also want to say to them that you have a performance feedback strategy, that you will give them that performance feedback. A lot of people will leave a salon because they feel the salon doesn't have their act together, whether it's performance feedback, what they do with raises, or is there anything they can do as far as sales training, and what are the possibilities? And like here, I like to have every salon set up with what I call a career pathing option. Now you're thinking, John, this is just a tanning salon. Hey, we're several notches above a lemonade stand, right? We've got people working for us, and a lot of these are younger people, and they're wondering about, well, what if I'm going to stay here? Could I someday be the manager? Could I be the assistant manager? So you're showing them a chain of command. You hire people in, and I'll take my cursor here, as an NAIT, a new associate in training. And that's where you probably pay your base wage per hour. Okay. Then when they've done a good job, and a good job should be measurable by their sales per tan, with blotions or with EFTs or whatever, you might promote them to an associate, sales associate one. And when you do this, and when these promotions are made, you should make a deal of it. You should let all the employees know, Janice just joined us last month, but she's done really well. Here's why I think she's done well. She's been promoted to sales associate one. If you want to see people get nuts, here's the old adage: redirect in private, but compliment them in public. And so it's not just you telling them that they're being promoted. You're telling the world. So the world being the other people they work with. And eventually maybe they get promoted up to sales associate two. You're paying them more per hour. Maybe you're giving them some minor managerial or supervisory type things to do, which is not a bad idea. You get somebody up to assistant manager, you want to start thinking about, or sales associate too, could this person be in leadership? When you get them up to assistant salon manager, they should be doing some management stuff. Management stuff. When you get up to salon manager, the biggest job that salon manager has is monitoring the sales performances of those employees. That is job number one, two, three, four, all the way to job 101. Monitoring those performances and helping to turn them around or reinforce the good ones. That is huge. I have a program that I developed years ago for this industry called the MVP. The MVP plan, and if you go again with the QR code, you can go on my website and you can get the MVP plan. I've got probably a couple hundred of my clients on the MVP plan, and it works because it ranks from highest to lowest each employee in the salon. And a lot of times, what that does, it gets their ego involved. They say, "Well, God, I got to get going here. I'm really sucking wind." So it's kind of like you could, as a boss, and remember the old adage, as a boss spelled backwards is double SOB. Just thought I'd share that with you. So you can, you can threaten them, you can do all kinds of things if that's what you want to do. But if you want them to step up and you have this ranking by the MVP plan, instead of you metaphorically kicking them in the butt, they're kicking themselves in the butt. And those are the best kicks. Because when people start to kick themselves in the butt, not to keep you as a manager happy, but to keep themselves happy, to assuage their ego that they don't want to be sucking wind on the bottom. It works. Okay. Now, you've already had some interaction time with them by the time we get around to getting to our interviews. You might know their personal life and communication skills. You know how they handle the responsibility of their account. What am I talking about there on those two things? Because you're wondering, John, you switched on us. Here's what I'm talking about. Where do you look for tanning rock stars? Best candidate, bar none, comes off your email. No question about it. I got to tell you, Facebook and Craigslist and uh, Career Builder and ZipRecruiter, it's nothing. They're nothing compared to going on your own email database. And why? Because there's less unknowns. They like tanning. They like your tanning. You've you may in an interview with them, they may get honest with you about honest feedback on the salon. I mean, if they've been a candidate or a client of yours for a while and the things are going well in the interview, you might say, Megan, you've been a customer here for quite a while, and there's a good chance you're going to be working with us. What would you do differently about this salon? I mean, how can we make it better? Now, wouldn't it be incredible if that person that is interviewing would say something like, "Well, really, I think we need to close a little later, particularly in the peak season like this," because an answer like that is telling you that this person really cares about what they want to see the salon do. We don't need people sitting there. We need people that are invested in the salon. They probably live close to your salon, so it takes away the excuse, my boyfriend ate my car. I love that one. You've already had some interaction time with them. You might know their personal life and communication skills. You'll know how well they communicate. If they don't communicate well as a customer, then they're probably not going to communicate well as a sales associate. And then you can look at their account and you know how they handle their responsibility. All right, so how to be better prepared for interviews. A phone screen to avoid wasting time. And really, people, what it comes down to is we waste a lot of time on interviews. It's amazing how much time we waste on interviews because most people really don't know how to do it. I do. I've done it over 2,000 times. It might be close to 3,000 times because when I was running Target, I had 220 people that reported to me directly. Then when I was running the world's largest movie distribution company, I had 440 employees. So I wasn't in the Target business. I wasn't in the movie business. I wasn't in the music business anymore. I was in the people management business, people leadership business. So use a phone screen. You don't want to be wasting your time. Okay, so pre-screen questions and considerations. Over the phone, via text, via email, preferably not face to face. You don't want it to have this first interview face to face. You want it over the phone because that allows you, with the pre-screening, to siphon out people you don't want to talk to face because you could tell it would be a waste of time because you could tell that the compatibility is not there. You can even tell by their attitudes that you just don't want to interview them. So you do it over the phone. Uh, and when you're doing this over the phone, you're asking, okay, so where do you work now and why are you looking to change? There's a pretty common question there, right? And they may have too many job changes. They might be permanent members of the Job of the Month Club or whatever. You want to see how many gaps there are. You want to see when they're telling you where they've worked, and if there's like a whole year they weren't working. When you look at their application, if they haven't worked for a whole year, that's a good time to ask. Well, I see that between here and here, I don't see that you had a job there. Am I missing something? You're not being judgmental. You're just saying, am I missing something? And it might be that this lady was having a child, and but there could be other reasons. Who knows? But it might be interesting to hear if they haven't worked for a while. Interesting to hear what was their judgment of why they didn't have to work. Might be interesting, might not be. Who knows? Perceived personality compatibility. I know I keep going back to that, but we want to keep the drama down in the salons. So you want to match or mismatch with your personality. Is there an issue there? And I mentioned natural warmth. Now, um, when the Gallup organization talks about that, they talk about that skills, knowledge, and talent is natural warmth and natural interpersonal skills, whatever. Um, What they call natural talent is the natural reoccurring, this is important, natural reoccurring actions and attitudes. So some people are just gifted with things while others are not. I have certain gifts that I think are phenomenal, and then I've got other gifts that are, I need, I have to have employees to help me. So, but you're looking for that kind of stuff. At least 2 years of retail service experience, not counting fast food. If someone's happy at working at Wendy's for 4 or 5 years, we just don't want them. It's not that they're not bad people, but this is a totally different business. Think of this business this way, guys. We're asking people to come into our establishment, pay us money for the right to take their clothes off. There's got to be more to it than that. We're saying spend your time and your money, and we're going to send you back out the door with your self-esteem enhanced. That is very important. And part of that, and reinforcing that, is the communication and interpersonal skills from the people behind the counter. And if you can find that from somebody that's worked in fast food all their life, great. isn't probably going to happen. But all right, so next, um, where am I here? Okay, what do you? And then you're asking again. This is in the pre-screening. Why are you looking to make a job change? And asked why they changed. On prior jobs, they listed. You want to know what it was. There might be good reasons. There might be on those the reasons that they use opportunities for you to probe to find out. Okay, you said you left this job because you didn't get along with your boss. Okay, could you tell us what there was about the relationship you had with your boss that was just not working? Now, every once in a while, you'll get a legitimate answer. Um, it's not always somebody complaining or bitching about their boss. I did have a lady a couple of years ago that interviewed, and she said that she had to leave. She loved her job, but she had to leave because she couldn't get along with her boss. Well, it's because her boss was married and was inviting her for a weekend getaway. You know, men are pigs. They really are. Men are pigs. Anyway, okay. They're looking for better. If they say we're looking for better advancement opportunities or more hours, again, probe again and say, well, what kind of advancement opportunities? Where were you working out? What were you trying to get to? Did you discuss with your bosses that you wanted to get to that next job? And what did they tell you you would have to do to be a candidate for that? Okay. So, all right. Moving on. Wage expectations and available hours. You're going to get this done in the pre-screen. You're going to be asking for it again when you get into the actual interview because we want to see if they're consistent. Okay, what's the goal here? The goal is what's real. That's the most important part of the interview. What is real? Because the real person sitting in front of you may look like these. The lady on the right, I bought the rights to show her persona on the last book that I wrote. This lady is from one of the seminars that I've worked with, or one of the salons, and I can't remember where. But just look at them. Fairly attractive ladies, nicely dressed. I mean, you can look at the personalities already. I mean, they're ready to please. That's what you want. Got to be careful though, because you got to be careful of this. And this is a bugaboo of mine. What should we allow in tattoos and studs? So we're selling an indulgent experience, not some employee's self-expression. I'll repeat that. We're selling an indulgent expression, not some employee's self-expression. Hey, people's bodies are whatever they want to do with them. But what they do with their tattoos and their studs is saying something about them that they think is important. But 9 out of 10 times, it may not be important to somebody else. Kind of like that. Isn't she cute? I think that is a she. Anyway, so again, it's not about employees' self-expression. Okay, so what will help you see the real people in a relaxed, entertaining environment? When you bring them in, non-authoritarian seating. Don't be sitting behind some big monolith desk and they're sitting over there like some peon. Sometimes I sit to the side of a desk, or if I've got them out at a coffee shop, I kind of sit to the side. I kind of like coffee shops because it's not the symbol of authority for the company. You're at a coffee shop with this person. You have you're kind of you got commonality. They're at a coffee shop. You're at a coffee shop. You're not at your place of authority. So non-authoritarian seating is important because what you're trying to do is get this person to be relaxed, and they look at you and say, "Oh, they're just a person like me, I guess, whatever." And of course, you always thank them for coming in. Always, you don't want them to think that you're taking for granted that they have to be there because you're the almighty atomic powered tanning salons. You've got 3,000 of them, and they'll genuflect when they walk by you. Okay, so offer a refreshment. I do this. I know it seems weird, and this is a Yeti, but let's say you get 2 bottles of water. Every interview I do, I have bottles of water in there. And after I say, thanks for coming in. Hi, my name's John Farr. Boy, we're happy to see you. I enjoyed talking to you on your pre-screening, and there's some good stuff on your applicants, on your application. See, we're doing a lot of positive things. We're getting them to relax. Oh, okay. You know, the respiration goes down. He thinks I must be some kind of a candidate, and this is a good thing. Okay. The bottles of water. I'll say to you, would you like a bottle of water? They're cold. And they'll most of the time they're going to say no because they're afraid to even drink in front of you, right? Well, that's when you start drinking. You start drinking. Would you bottle? Oh, okay, excuse me just a minute. Hmm. Oh, water's good and cold. Once they start picking up that bottle of water and start drinking, now again, it's commonality. You're both doing the same things. I'm no better than they are. They're no better than I am. You want to create that commonality, and when you look at their application, you want to see what is in that background that's parallel to yours. Where'd they go to high school? Where'd they go to college? Um, are there activities that they mention on there? They're into horses. They're into raising dogs. Whatever it is, anything that you have an interest in too. If they come in and they sit down, you say, "Hey, I see that you like horses, whatever." Uh, hey, I tell you what, I've got an uncle that um, train horses for the show ring, and blah blah blah. Next thing you know, you two are talking about American Saddlebred or whatever. Again, it's like now it's not judge and person to be judged. It's just two people talking. Now you want to review in private, inside or outside the salon. Don't interview at the counter. Should be private. You don't know who's going to be there. Be prepared with open-ended questions and avoid questions like simply yes, no. I put this one in there because most people, when you're reading this, you're saying, duh, you wouldn't do that. But I love this one. Do you like working with people? Wouldn't it be great if just once somebody would say, I hate working with people. I'd rather get up on a a water tower or the 30-06 and shoot them. I hate people. Little dramatic there. Okay. Be prepared to additional probing questions. Probing is defined, you get the applicant to expand on many of their answers. Um, I'll show you an example of that on some questions coming up here. We're going to be talking about probing. Okay, so just two people sharing their thoughts, and these are interview approaches that don't work. We're going to get to the questions in a minute here. Having the tribunal, we call it. Having three interviewers, one person being interviewed. Again, you want people to be comfortable. The next point, someone in our industry, I don't know who that was, they watch The Wolf of Wall Street or whatever, and they'll say, "Well, I bring them in and I sit them down for the interview. I'll hand them a pen. I'll say, sell this pen." That is the most ridiculous thing. It is incredibly ridiculous. Look at let's say they worked at a tanning salon and they wanted to come to work at your tanning salon, and you said, "Hey, how did you sell EFTs? What kind of pattern did you use?" Now that makes sense. You want to know that, and they would be comfortable with that. Who gives a damn if they know how to sell a pen? So it's I don't know. Some people ask some really dumb questions. Okay, and don't sell the job. You can see here, don't sell the job before you're sold. Just something to keep in mind. And always counter interviews, or interviews should be not counters, but in private. Okay, so the length of an interview in our industry, the length of an average interview is about 28 minutes. Some people will interview somebody in 15 minutes. Some people will interview them in 2 hours, but it's not a very long process, particularly when you compare the consideration time of buying a new piece of tanning equipment, 5+ hours. Well, John, those cost $50,000. Your employees can make an enormous difference. It could be that $50,000 or more if you got the right people behind the counter. So don't take it lightly. The equipment is expensive, but hiring the bad employees is also very expensive. Okay, good in-person questions. First, find some commonality, share your background with theirs. Would you please give me a brief summary about your personal as well as working background? Remember, everybody's favorite subject is always themselves. Give me a brief summary about your personal as well as working background. People can share that with you. They're hopefully there's things they're proud of that they want to talk about or they want to point to. What were duties and responsibilities at those jobs? What did you like and dislike? And if someone said, well, I really didn't like stocking shelves. Well, why didn't you like stocking shelves? First of all, if they're stocking shelves, I'm not sure that they're cut out for a tanning salon anyway. Well, because, and I heard this once, I didn't like stocking shelves because I never got any interaction with people, and I like interaction with people. Well, that's a good answer. I like that. What do you know about our salon? Have they done their homework? Now, if you got them through your email, they should know something about your salon. And, if they do, here's a question. Here's a probing question for you. You'd ask them, well, you've tanned in our salon here and you want to come to work for it. Give me some help here. What would you do that would maybe help the salon be even better than it already is? Do you see some things that when you've been here as a customer or now as a prospective employee, what do you think we should do that could make the salon even better? And if you draw a big blank, it makes me wonder how much homework they've done. They're really passionate about working in a tanning salon. Okay, so what were your reasons for leaving previous jobs? Go through the most recent, and then probe to get details. If they say I left because I didn't have any promotional opportunities, don't let them get away just with that. Well, that's too bad. Tell me something about that. How did that company work its promotions? And what job were you in and what job were you trying to be promoted to? Get them talking about it. The more you can, the more you're going to find out. Some more good interview questions. Okay. Who is your best, worst boss and why? And then you probe on that. Jack was my worst boss. What was so bad about Jack? Well, Jack liked to take his shoes off, whatever, screwy things, whatever. Okay. What in your life are you most proud of? I think that's a great question. I really like that. If someone has some good self-esteem, good introspection on themselves, they're going to be able to tell you like that. Now, here's the point. When you ask them that question, understand that most people have never been asked that question. When you ask them that, they may not be ready with an answer. And when you get the feeling that they're not, you say, hey, tell you what, we'll come back. Don't worry about that. We'll come back to it. You can think about it. We'll come back to it. How about, were you able to make suggestions at those jobs to make the business better? That's kind of interesting. Now, again, here's another one that most people probably won't be able to answer because depending upon where they came to work from, they probably didn't have an opportunity to make suggestions. But it's a kind of a good one if they say, well, I came up with this suggestion to do this. It made the organization of the tips for everybody more fair and equitable. Just regardless of what it is, if they show that they took the initiative to come up with a suggestion, we like that. We want people on the job for that. Okay, this is a good one. How did you handle a dissatisfied customer? It's a predictor of what they would do in the future. Not how would they handle it, how did they handle it? Because that's important. We've got a great industry, the tanning industry, but we're not perfect. And we're going to have issues that are going to be a problem. And I want to hear that somebody keeps their cool and has said to the customer that maybe is complaining at the counter, yes, ma'am, could we just step over here because I want to hear uh, everything that you said that because I want to make sure that I truly understand what your concerns were. And you're parroting back, well, you felt that we didn't handle you with empathy for your problem. I understand that. I apologize for that. Take the wind out of their sails, but get them away from the counter because as long as they're bitching and moaning about their service, there's other customers there. We don't want that. So how did you handle dissatisfied customer? In your past jobs, what were your best strengths as an employee? If they don't know, then you should ask them, did you have performance evaluations at your past job? Well, no, we didn't. Now, even in entry level food service, most people get some kind of an evaluation. And maybe they didn't, maybe they did, but see if they could tell you what their boss said was the best strengths as an employee. Okay, outside of any physical or mental disabilities, outside of any physical or mental disabilities, because we're not asking about physical or mental disabilities because there's laws against that. Americans with Disabilities Act. We're not asking about that. Were there reasons outside of those physical or mental disabilities? Were there reasons for absences or tardiness with past jobs? And is that a predictor of what it might be in the future with your salon? Now, anybody that's got a half a brain is probably not going to answer that honestly, but they might say, "Well, I was out of work for 6 months. I was having trouble with child. I was pregnant, and the doctor said that I should just cool it and stay off my feet." And all right, I understand that. That's as good a reason as any, right? But probe for that kind of stuff. All right, now tell me about a time you had to sell. Uh, Tell me about a time you had to sell an idea or yourself to someone else. And that is where that rubber meets the road. So they're not going to be able to answer that right away. Tell them you'll come back to it. But when you come back to it, you can say, well, look at you, that last job you had. Why do you suppose the employer hired you? How did you sell yourself to them? You got to get them thinking about what it is. They probably don't even think about selling what they've done to sell themselves. I mean, so many people go about where they kind of accept whatever life gives them. And I tell you, if you're not in the business of selling, you're going to get just what life gives you. And life doesn't always hand out a lot of kudos. So you got to sell yourself. Um, if they tell you ways that they sold themselves to an employer, to an organization that they were part of or whatever, that's good stuff because we are in the selling business. Now, what in your personal or work life are you most proud of? Actually, I asked that a second time. So it's worth it. Let's say that they didn't answer it the first time. You can come back to it and see what they say. What on the job mistake? What on the job mistake did they make and what did they learn from it? This is really good because we want to know that they can admit that they can make a mistake, but that they also learn from it and they changed whatever. What we don't want are employees that we hire that are afraid of any kind of redirection because their self-esteem, won't allow that. So um, we want to see if they can handle that kind of thing. Hold on a second here. I think we got back to ourselves. Okay. All right. So what did you learn from those job mistakes? All right. The bad first impressions of interviewing. If the interviewee shows up with an excessive amount of body piercings or visible tattoos. Now, here's a John Farr statement. This is a John Farr exclusive. I should have gotten a copyright on this. Good judgment is, and this is what you're looking for in applicants. You want them to have good judgment. Good judgment is balancing the need for self-expression with the need of first impressions. Don't you like that? I do. Of course I would, because I came up with it. Hey, have all the tattoos and stuff coming out of your head that you want. But when you go in for the job, dress nice, look nice, so maybe a little bit of makeup, hair nicely done, whatever. And you don't want to be showing off all these studs that looks like you could pick up a good FM radio signal. I mean, you're not a cell tower. So good judgment, balancing the need for self-expression with the need of first impression. If an employee feels that the most important thing in the world for them is self-expression, I think that's wonderful. Let them fulfill that need. just not in an indulgence place where we're asking people to spend a lot of money. Anyone who badmouths their past bosses or fellow employees, that's usually not a good sign. Any response that shows lack of commitment to the work in general. there's a there's a salon up in North Carolina in Greenville, East Carolina University, and it's called uh, um, oh boy, they were a client of mine back about 8 years ago. There's a new owner now. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. They're a stone's throw from freshman housing. So I mean, they got a lot of young people in there. And when I saw them at the expo in Columbus, I advised them, please stay away from the students. While I was working with the client up there back then, and I was doing an interview, and this young lady asked me, "Is it okay if between customers I do my homework?" Again, judgment. Judgment is you wouldn't wear the map of Wisconsin as a tattoo on your face. The judgment is you wouldn't say something like that, but she did. Yeah. Okay. Hello. All right. So now, any reference to a desired work schedule that contradicts what was agreed to in the pre-screening interviews. If in the pre-screening interviews they said, "Oh, I'm available. Hey, I'm anytime you want. I'm any shift or whatever," and then you ask this again in the face-to-face, they say, "Well, I can work 3 shifts a week in the evening, whatever." You want to look for consistency. Are they being consistent in what they're saying? And as we all know, even when they tell us they're available all the time, reality sometimes comes down to that there's all kinds of reasons that they have to not work that schedule, whatever. Okay, so QR code. I talked about the QR code. Here's the QR code. Um, the good moments of interviewing, all the interview questions, it's all right in there in that QR code. And you can get all kinds of goodies from me and my HR side and pricing and marketing. I mean, it's all there in that QR code. The biggest thing that's in that QR code I really want to impress upon you is that if you want to sign up for a free 1 hour consultation with yours truly, um, that's, I'm there. I'm going to get to the last page here because, and sorry about that, but I'm keeping you people on this probably too long. Okay, so hiring, the best follow up for hiring, best bed cleaning. Talk to them about some of the work that's not glamorous. You don't want them to show up at work thinking this is all roses, right? Offer letters. I love offer letters. Most of these people that are coming to work for you have never even heard of the phrase offer letters. I do that with all my clients. We hire somebody new, we promote somebody, we give them an offer letter. It shows what the duties are going to be, what the wages are going to be, maybe what the opportunities for advancement are going to be. So here you've got a person that's just interviewed with you, and they're all excited because they think your salon's a really professional thing. I really like this. And then they get an offer letter. You know what a lot of them do? They take that offer letter and they show it to their parents, they show it to their peers, whatever, because it's impressive. Because unless you're up as a big corporation, they don't have offer letters. I've been using offer letters for years in the tanning business, and it works. It gets this new applicant to think, boy, they're really professional, and that's what we want. Use training checklist. Focus on progress. Um, if you don't have a training checklist, get one. There's one on the website. Use a buddy to help training. People tend to learn faster from a peer than they do from a boss. Now the boss has got to be involved. I understand that, but if you can get them pairing up with somebody else, they won't be intimidated by that someone else, and they'll become buddies and they'll help each other. And then always train in small increments. You hire somebody the first day, you want them to be productive in certain ways that they feel like they've done something. but you can't do their training in 1 week. If you think you can do effective training on how to handle customers, how to sell lotions, EFTs, other packages, how to handle issues with customers, how to handle the software. If you think you can do that in 1 week, God bless you. Most people cannot do it. So that's why I say a training checklist and doing it in small increments. I think the best I see is that those people that plan on doing a training, say like over a month or over 6 weeks, that seems to make a lot of sense. And of course, they do have to be certified too. Now, this is a biggie. Establish the importance of sales numbers. Have them looking at their sales numbers because man, we got to have them. This isn't just uh, you know, it's a fun business. Like we like working in tanning salons because we don't want to work at Amazon. And this is fun. And we meet a lot of people that are positive because they feel good about their tan and their boyfriend whistles at them. It's all great stuff, great stuff. But when it comes down to it, we are a selling organization. And the more that we sell to the top line, the more money available for higher end equipment and more money for salespeople to answer the inevitable question, what's in it for me? All right, last slide. I want to get to, again, QR code. I love that spinning QR code. Action plan. Do you have an action plan for peak 2025? Failing to plan is planning to fail. All my new clients that come to me, I had 6 this week already. We've already put together action plans. Tell them, this is what we need to do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Got to have an action plan. And it's already December the 11th or whatever it is right now. The clock is ticking. It won't be long. And this is what happens to us every year at this time. We're busy. I've got to get this. I've got to get this gift for Uncle Fred, and I got to do this for the kids and the grandkids and whatever. And then all of a sudden you realize Christmas is over. The peak season is going to start here in a few weeks. You need time to find your rock stars. You need time to put together your pricing, your marketing. We're already working on marketing schedules for the whole year for our clients. Okay, and under your action plan. So click the QR code below to my website and sign up for a free consultation hour with Mr. Wonderful, the Salon Doctor. I'll examine your salon vitals just like a doctor would, versus 350 other salons to tell you what your salon can do in 2025. It's not only will I show you where you're behind or ahead of what my network of 350 does, but I'll give you a projection of what it can do. So it's right there, people, the QR code. Um, I apologize for taking so long. I think we've been on for an hour and 20 minutes, but I hope you got something from it. And you guys know how to get a hold of me. So let's get ready. 2025 is going to be a killer. We're going to be kicking butts like you can't believe. Thanks for listening. I hope to meet you all and hope that we're going to do some business with some of you. So have a good one and get prepared for peak.